And we are live. We are live, but there's no one about. There is a few folk about, so let's get right into the video. Take these off. No need for them because I'm not going to be listening to anyone else, bar myself. So the big news is out today. Brendan is the manager. We're going to get a few people on and we'll get your comments and we'll see exactly what you think about it. But first of all, we'll catch up on any news that has been since Brendan has been appointed manager. One of the first things we want to look at is the comment from the chief executive, Michael Nicholson, who added, "We are delighted to welcome Brendan as our new manager. He is a football manager of real quality and experience with an established track record of delivering success. The role as Celtic manager is attractive and highly sought after. In the process, we considered many potential candidates. In appointing Brendan, we are confident we have identified the best candidate for Celtic. Having spoke to Brendan and discussed the club's strategy and objectives with him, I can see the passion he has for the club, forward positivity and building on what we have achieved. We look forward to working together and delivering our growth success for Celtic and our supporters." Peter Lawwell, I can imagine the room with him and Peter Lawwell in it because they two have history. Peter Lawwell said, "Through the process of identifying the new Celtic manager, it was clear that Brendan was an outstanding choice and absolutely delighted to have appointed him on a long-term contract in 3 years." So the one thing, it's obvious that it's obviously Lawwell's group that lets slip this thing about the long-term contract. Everybody was spouting 5 years when it's only a 3-year contract. Lawwell went on to say, "We wanted to prove he's a winner, and both Brendan, myself and everyone at the club look forward to working with him again and to drive Celtic forward. He's someone who knows the club well and has experience of the huge challenges at Celtic domestically and on the European scene." So that's what basically Peter Lawwell had to say about it. What do you think? Tell me in the comments. Let's get some in. Brendan here for 56 says Paul Cunningham. And evening, lads and lasses, says CFC 1888. Well, the thing is, we have the new boss. There have been fans groups that have been disappointed in his appointment. When you look at the Green Brigade and what they put out, and then when you go on Instagram and you see what the boys put out, all the boys have basically put out today is someone's obviously on their holidays, and the boys, and they've never put anything out apart from one of their stickers being somewhere in America. That's from the boys. So whilst the Green Brigade have put out, and I'm not wanting to get who's better fans and who's not, people have their own opinions, but there must be other channels live now. This is more intimate. Is there other? I didn't know there was other Celtic channels live. So thanks for telling me that, Ewan Boy Martin. They probably pre-recorded videos. I did say that I was going to go live at 7:00. There's probably lots of other channels went live, but what I want to do is make this as interactive as possible. Unknown has said it's been a fantastic signing. Paul Cunningham says we need to keep the intensity Ange has on the players. Well, the only thing that that I've got about that is what you have to remember. Ange did say about 3 or 4 weeks before the end of the season that he actually did not take training. And it was all down to, now this is when you think the timeline starts getting into play, because Ange is talking up John Kennedy left, right and centre, saying that it's John Kennedy that actually takes the training and he has nothing to do with the training. He says that John Kennedy sets up the training regime and he basically comes along once a week, watches for the sidelines, see what's going on, and John Kennedy tells him everything else that's going on. So with that being said, you could obviously see that we know now that the timeline had already been set in play, that Ange Postecoglou's backroom team, his agent had been looking down south at other options for the end of the season, and this was obviously part of the buttering-up process to try and take our backroom staff with us. With that being said, he's gone. We have a new man in. The new man is Ange Postecoglou has left the building. Sky Sports are now going on to say, who would Celtic sign under Brendan Rodgers? Who would he sign? The type of players that he's going to bring in, he had a good track record before, but with the thing, everything's still in place at Celtic. Everything's completely still in place. The backroom staff's in place. Glad we've kept Kennedy. Yep. And says Celtic players, they will go after the Scottish Cup was won. Yes, Ange Postecoglou did say that. He did say straight after the Scottish Cup, he said some of these Celtic players will not be around next season. And that was on the basis that he thought he was maybe going to take them to Spurs with him. He's maybe still hopes that he's going to come in for Rio Hatate. He maybe still hopes that he's maybe going to come in for Jota. You don't know. It doesn't look like he's going to come in for anybody else. He's maybe going to come in for Kyogo, but there's been a lot of speculation, and it is all just speculation. What we have found out over the last 24 hours is the fact that our owner was absolutely livid with the way that Ange left the building, and it's just one of these things. Let's move on. Hail, hail from an Irishman. That was a great video last night. Hail, hail, Brendan, let's go. Yeah, it was all about just, it was one part of the moment. You've got to have a laugh. It is just a platform where you get to entertain people. Glad we have kept Kennedy, says Paul Cunningham. I think keeping the backroom staff was absolutely paramount for the continued success that we're going to have at Celtic, or we hope to have. You can never say that we're automatically going to get it. Look at this way, the way that Brenda's improved us. And Europe has to be the most. I think when you look back on last season, we were very, very naive in Europe, and we'll all agree that. And Ange Postecoglou wouldn't change his style. I think that Brendan Rodgers will still have an attacking style of football. You just need to look at the way that Dumbelli used to play Odson Edwards. Free goal scoring. They would score absolutely cracking goals, and you would have more people shooting from outside the box. I think the way that the team had been playing, people were getting a bit fed up as I was trying to break teams down. We're sitting on the 18-yard box, and we were all shouting at, have a shot. It was like, shoot, just have a shot. Celtic are bigger than the Green Brigade. Hail, hail. Yes, they are. The Green Brigade did put out that statement, and let's just, they've got their thing going on. It wasn't so long ago when they were asking every fan to donate to their fund to make sure that the stadium got a full tifo. And then, they're either trying to say, look, we hate the guy, but I don't really want to get into that conversation. That's something that should be spoke about on the platform and on TikTok and on social media. You can talk about it to your heart's content. With other Celtic news this evening, there's obviously going to be Chris Sutton has put out a rallying cry for the support to get behind Brendan Rodgers. And Brendan Rodgers is obviously looking to meet the Celtic team before pre-season so that they can talk about, obviously, their way forward. At that point, they'll probably sit down as a collective unit and they'll speak about the way that Hi from South Africa is Daniel. I think when you look at the way that the players played last season, it's always top-end managers always say to the squad, how did you enjoy playing like that? Is there any way that we can improve? And that's one of the things that Brendan Rodgers will do. He'll come in and say, how can we improve on last season? Now, you've got to remember, Callum McGregor was there the first time round. James Forrest was there the first time round. He's not an unknown quantity like it was 2 and a bit years ago when Ange Postecoglou come in. All the other players in the team will be on their WhatsApp group chat, and their captain will be saying, you know what? We've got a damn good manager back at Celtic, someone that knows the club and somebody that knows how to win and push us forward and take us to that, keep us at that sustained level. And maybe it is just a case of, finishing third in Europe. Maybe it is just a case of finishing third, dropping down from the Champions League, having a good sort of performance in the Champions League, and then dropping down to Europa. Everybody has their own idea on what they class as success. Would have preferred someone else who has done well in Europe. That's where we need to improve, says Andreas. I think when you look at the money that's involved in Europe in this day and age, Man City basically just bought the Champions League with the money that they spent. If you look at the money that's involved at that top end, Celtic are never going to get through to sort of the last 8, last 4. to a semi. They're never going to get to that level purely for the finances. It's all about making sure that we put in an absolutely cracking performance, get back to winning at home, get back to making teams scared to come to Celtic Park. And that includes making sure that all the fans are behind us. Now, all the fans have to be together in this. Now, I'm going to take it. It's going to the first Champions League night at Celtic Park. There is absolutely no chance in this world will the Green Brigade put up a banner against Brendan Rodgers. I'm going to put that out there. That won't do it. At Celtic, I support, and whoever is the manager says Green Machine. And it is, managers come and go. And we all absolutely adored Ange Postecoglou. We were all amazed at the way that he embraced the club. It was only weeks ago that he was talking about the fact that, he loved the way the club embraced him and his family. No, he felt that. And we actually all felt that he was going to stay here. The information that was coming out of the club, he was offered the deal, and he was offered an absolutely amazing deal. Brendan Rodgers has then come along and took that deal. He wanted to accept it. Ange Postecoglou is gone. It's in the past. It is Celtic we support. We've supported a lot of teams over the years. A lot of players come and go, so it is just what it is. Let's move on and support the manager and get back to supporting the team. And let's get back to being excited about the type of player that he's probably going to bring in. And Danny says, I don't think he's better than Ange, but he is a top appointment. Yep, I would probably, saying that, is he not? He's got more experience in the Champions League than Ange Postecoglou. So when you look at you see what he's got at Spurs, he's got a project. Now that's what Ange likes. He likes going in and it's a project. He's a project manager. He likes going in when he's got his back against it. Will he manage to get them to the Champions League? Will he manage to get them through the group stages in the Champions League? He's going to be spending £50 million a player. It's a different level ball field altogether. You can't compare Scottish football to the English Premiership, as well as you can't compare, Scottish football to Spanish football. It's just, you just can't do it. Anyway, right. Is he getting 35 million for a transfer budget? I've heard he is getting significant funds and is also getting a good percentage of anything that was any sell-ons from this summer. Now, we did have a very good, interesting chat this afternoon. And if anybody knows me, there's people that know me for the channel and they know how long I've been going to football when I was back in Scotland. And, it's just a matter of fact, Brendan was chased at the door. And that is fact. Celtic wanted to take between 9 and 14 million money for him. And the reason that came about is he had told Celtic they was going to leave that following summer. Peter Lawwell didn't want that to happen. He wanted to take that money now, and it was all because of the old John McGinn thing and the money. Celtic would never spend big money to get that little bit progress in Europe, and that's where it all fell down for Peter Lawwell and the man that's came back. So the Green Brigade are less than 1% of our fan base, yet they bring noise and colour. No way do they speak for the vast majority. They do bring a lot of noise and colour to the stadium or when it's at Celtic Park. I think we have an away fan base that is far outnumbers, and I can talk from experience. We have an away fan base that goes to away games in Scotland. We can take 7,000 to Ibrox, and the majority of them are not Green Brigade. 99% of them are not Green Brigades, and they will outsing the whole of Ibrox. So to say that they bring it, that is just the nature of the beast that we have created at Celtic Park. You get a lot of people that will buy tickets through agencies that want to come here, tourism visas and everything, that will come and buy tickets just to come and see Celtic. Gary Keown is a total tosser. It is that. It is that, Craig. How anybody can come out and say that that he failed first time around when he was so successful, I think it's just the fear on what we're about to do in Scotland. Again, how will Brendan use the kitty? 1 or 2 big players or 5 or 6 cheaper players? I don't think he's going to go down the cheap route. Celtic already have a squad of a certain standard. If we're going to be selling players, we're going to be selling them for 10 million plus. Any first team player is at least worth at least 10 million. And I'm talking about not the guys that come in, the squad players, I'm talking about the regular first team guys. And if you're going to replace them, we're not going to spend them on 3, 4, 5 million pound players. I do expect Celtic to spend big this summer. Brendan Rodgers has been in talks with Celtic since the day Ange Postecoglou was announced by Celtic that he was leaving. And they have been working in the background. It was Dermot Desmond that totally pushed the whole thing, and that's what we have to be proud of. I mean, everybody gives the guy stick, but I think he was deeply hurt at the way that the whole Ange Postecoglou thing came about. Lucky Amy says, regardless of how you feel about Rodgers, you have to admire his bravery coming back. Clearly believes he can improve the team, especially in Europe. Yet, one of my mates put that on Twitter. It takes a big set of balls, a big set of bohakas to come walking back into Celtic after people will say he left the way that he did. But people that are in the know exactly what happened on him and know the facts. And even that season, there were some of us saying that everybody was singing Brendan Rodgers for here for 10 in a row. And we had group chats where we were saying, well, what they don't know is he's probably not going to be here for the 10 in a row. But we move on. Brendan made Ibrox shut us out. They did that. And that's just what we have to remember. That is very true. This is why we have a reduced allocation at Ibrox. We have to remember this. It was Brendan Rodgers going there and absolutely scalping them. That was the reason that that we were locked out. Neil Kern says, "Sorry lads, I can't stand him, the traitor." But if you know the whole backstory, Neil, I'm sure that you would. This is the thing: is people think that he left because he wanted to go, and he was going to leave it at the end of that season. And I'm not going to reveal the sources for that, but they do sit in the director's box of Celtic Park. He was going to leave at the end of that season, but Peter Lawwell, seeing the big money that Leicester was thrown in compensation, and that's what made him get pushed down the road. Peter Lawwell is the real villain. Downsized us, allowed Rangers to keep cheating EBT titles, wanted Seville back in the top league. I despise the man who says, you and boy, yep, you and you're probably on the same page with me as that. Peter Lawwell has done a lot of things over the years that kind of annoyed me, and I think that he is one man that should be nowhere near Celtic Park. For all the good that he did do, he did hold us back. So Coffee says, oh, give it a rest. It sounds like the bloody Rodgers fanboy. I'm out. See you later then, Coffee. Paul McDuff says, Paul McDuff, where are you? You say Brendan won us 7 out of 7 trophies. It's a no-brainer. The thing is, Celtic, and that's another funny thing. I've seen a lot of fans on social media saying that they're handing back their season tickets. Now, having been a fan and a season ticket holder for a long time, I bet he was I bet the people that are saying that they're handing back their season tickets weren't season tickets holders during the Ronnie Dyler years. It was only the completely hardcore fan base. And let's face it, getting tickets for away games during the Ronnie Dyler's years was so much easier. Charlie says there's two sides of it. He left, but he wouldn't take the trophies. We were all pissed off the way he left, but we were in a better position. And, you've got to remember the way that Peter Lawwell played it. Peter Lawwell played it because he knew that Neil Lennon was out of job. And then he paraded Neil Lennon within 24, 40 hours, and he says, this is the man who started the 9 in a row. This is the man who will finish the 9 in a row. That was Peter Lawwell's exact words. So everyone that's getting, I hated Rodgers for the way that he did it, but it was not a surprise to a lot of people. It is a safe set of hands. Now, if you look at the track record of some of the other managers that were, the only one was the Bobo Glint manager. But would he have been able to come in? The last time that we brought somebody in from Northern European, and was Ronnie Dyler, and to be honest, he wasn't the greatest success in Europe. Although the Bobo Glint manager has had some success in Europe, would he have been able to do that on a consistent basis? Would he have been able to dominate Scottish football. It all comes down to the goldfish bowl. I think Ange Postecoglou was struggling a bit with the way that the media reacts in Scotland. Some of the questions on him, I mean, you could see it. I mean, the manager's sitting like this. He's like, fuck, Jesus, really? And I think he got bored of the Scottish League a long time before he'd made up his mind to leave. Anyway, wanting big list for season books, there is a big waiting list for season books. So anybody that wanted to hand their season ticket back, and I think that you've got to remember the season ticket list went even bigger when Brendan Rodgers was announced. Buddy Monkey says, I wouldn't put the pressure on Brendan Rodgers' European exploits this season. An invincible domestic treble will do for the first year. I think that will do. The fans, I think, were well aware of what needs to be done, and it is about the continuation of how important it is for us to win the league and keep them behind us. Now, they've went out and they haven't even looked at what players they've signed, but understand that it has been a lot of free transfers. There is suggestions that they might spend some money. Will Michael Beale turn around and say halfway into the season that Brendan Rodgers is a lucky man? This is the same Brendan Rodgers that Rangers fans said was running away from a certain manager that decided to run away also. So, the zombie meltdown has started. Rodgers is back. Coffee. It's just one of those things. He's back. We need to get behind the man. We need to start getting excited about the type of players that he will bring in, because he's going to bring in his own players. There will be players that leave. He's going to improve the squad. He's already said that in his statement, that he's looking forward to working with the players that are already here. He's not about to chase anybody. He realizes how good this squad is. The fact that he's kept John Kennedy. John Kennedy was the man who run the training. Ange Postecoglou admitted that himself. John Kennedy is the man that the continuation, when they go into training the first morning after the summer holidays, they know exactly what face is going to greet them at the door, and he knows exactly the face is going to say, you've put on far too many pounds on your holiday. You're going to work your butt off for the next 2 weeks. But the way that these players are, I think those days are maybe gone. It will be all about what players we can bring in to improve the squad. You've got to remember, Ange Postecoglou was talking about this before he left. He was talking about the fact that one or two players might go, one or two players are on the radars of other clubs. He says this is going to be the most important transfer window yet of his tenure if he was still here, purely for the fact that nobody had been coming in with big money to offer Celtic money for players. Whether that's going to happen this season, it might not. You never know. It might not happen. Brendan Rodgers will sign a new goalkeeper, a left back, centre half, a striker. I don't know. Will he sign another striker? O needs to be given his chance. Kyogo, I can't really see Kyogo going. I think the only one that really worries me about going would be Hatate. I think if any of the other ones were to go, I don't think they will go, to be honest. I just can't see it. I can't see Ange Postecoglou coming back for any players, because what he's trying to do at Spurs is obviously take them to that next level, to just be top six. And let's face it, I don't think any of those players are in that position. Maybe Kyogo is. I don't know. Will they come in for a 20+ million bid for Kyogo? It's hard to say. Exactly right. We're about the available options, which makes Sevco most paranoid. Had to be Rodgers. Time to get behind the man and the club. With that being said, will there be a meet and greet? Will Celtic or will Brendan Rodgers just say, no, there's no need to meet the fans. The fans know who I am. I want to just get down to work. Like he said in his statement today, it's like get down to work. The hard work begins at pre-season. He wants to get to work and get to work with the players and the backroom staff to see how they could progress together. And I think there won't, and it's probably right, especially when you've seen the Green Brigade putting out their thing today. You wouldn't want any bad press. Let's just face it, it says, because it only takes one banner, and then the press will be all over that. Somebody sneaking in at Celtic Park with a banner and saying Rodgers out or something, and then the zombies jump on it. Anyway, Street says 30 million for Hatate. I think 30 million on Hatate, we would sell him all day long. We only have two strikers. We at least need another one. All depends on the way that the manager is going to play. I think it depends who we sell. It's going to be a big couple of weeks. It's probably more important that we keep Kyogo. I think Ange might try and get Kyogo. Will he get him? That'll be the big deciding factor. I still think 55,000 will turn up at Celtic Park when Brendan Rodgers arrives. There will be fans that will turn up. Of course, there'll be fans that turn up. I've got to remember when Neil Lennon was first appointed manager, and there was less than 100 fans turned up. So, and if you want to check out my video for that, I'll put it up somewhere. And I think I posted it already. If you go to the community tab, you'll see. And that was one of the first videos that I did for Celtic, and it was the unveiling of Neil Lennon as manager for Celtic the first time around. Got a good feeling about the appointment of Rodgers. Will run amok. I think he will run amok in Scottish football. I think he'll bring in a standard of player that he wasn't going to get the last time. And I think this is where it becomes really important. Brendan Rodgers wanted a level of player that would have meant us spending a little bit of money. And the board at the time, and the man in charge, wasn't for spending that money. He was all for spending a couple of million on a player and then selling them for 10 million. For us to go out and spend 5-6 million on 2 or 3 players, Ange Postecoglou turned that corner around with the help of Nicholson. Now, Nicholson's still in charge, so I can't see that changing anytime soon. I can't see us going back to spending less than £5 million on a player just to get somebody that has potential. I think Brendan will want to go out and he'll have his eyes on players that he knows that he can get for a decent price, that he can improve. You've got to remember how much he improved several players that came to Celtic. Let's get back to the comments. Young Boy says, Sevco's zombies are running scared. Love it. They're right to be scared. Yes, this is very true. They're right to be scared. Like up, says Mr. Cartrade YT. What an interesting YouTube channel. I need to have a look at that after. Thanks for the thumbs up. Yeah, make sure you get as many thumbs up on the video as let's get to 50. Let's get to the 50 likes, guys. There's lots of people on the channel. There's probably a lot of people watching on the telly, so let's get as many likes as we can. Dembele, if he brings Dembele back, he'll scalp them another perfect hat trick. Could you imagine Dembele and Kyogo in the same team? You know, I know that Brendan does like to go with one up front, but we've seen it towards the end of the last season where we tried 2 strikers up front, and I think looking forward, and especially looking into Europe, I think I would personally, I'd like to see us playing with 2 strikers up front now and again. Hopefully Brendan Rodgers has grown as a man and as a manager, and he takes on board the way that these players have been playing over the last 2 years, the consistency that they're going to look for. He's going to look to the likes of John Kennedy, and he's going to talk about them, and he's going to talk about John Kennedy will know the ins and outs of every player, and he'll know all the good bits and the bad bits of the player and what they can excel at. And obviously, because we've kept all the backroom staff, they'll know what improvements that they were looking for from the players for next season. They would have sat down before the end of last season talking about exactly how they can improve each player that's currently at Celtic and just push them on. Look at the way that Greg Taylor's turned his career around, and it was all because it was just a change of style of play. I think Greg Taylor would absolutely come on leaps and bounds even more under the guy. So 3-5-2 formation. I would love to go back to the 3-5-2 formation. I think we excelled in the 3-5-2 formation. You've got to remember that can then go the 5 can drop back to a back 5 if needed be in Europe. That's what gave us lots of success in Europe. It made us hard to beat. You just look at Martin O'Neill's teams in Europe. We did get results. The 3, I would absolutely love it if we went back to a 3-5-2. A real 56. Yes, we will get a real 56. Where are you all from, fellow Celtic fans? It says Ewan Boy. He's from Dunoon. Yeah, tell me in the comments where you're all from. The People's Republic of Colt Bridge, says Green Machine. 3-5-2 is a quiz. Oh dear. Anyway, right, get as many thumbs up as you can. I'm only going to stay online for about another 2 or 3 minutes because that's about half an hour. I think that's more than enough chat. We'll go live again on his folk in Edinburgh. Paul Cunningham's in Edinburgh, Paul the Duff's Glasgow. So yeah, we'll make it as interactive as possible. Ian says bring Dembele back. He would be amazing again. Yep. Nigelman from Holland. Yep. Wow, go on yourself, Jamaican Jock in Holland. I got my season ticket for the first time under Rodgers, came from Edinburgh, and then Aldo is in the Highlands. There was a lot of people who got their ticket under Rodgers. You've got to remember there was one section of the top tier that was sat empty under Ronnie Dyler. So there was a good 7,000 to 10,000 fans less on a weekly basis. So I think a lot of fans saying that they're going to leave because Rodgers is back, I don't see it. There's such a need and want to watch Celtic just now, and it is going to be exciting times. Remember, it is the second year in a row that we go directly straight into the group stages of the Champions League. That on its own is worth getting the season book for, because those tickets will be absolute gold dust. And you've got to remember, if you've got a kid's ticket for the season as well, but you've got the £50 ticket for your kids, you can then convert that into an adult ticket for the Champions League. So you usually take your kids to the football during the season, but the kid doesn't get to the Champions League, Graham. Your brother or your best mate does. So hi from Burnt Island. Hi, James. How's Burnt Island these days? 415 EC, County Kerry, Ireland. So with that being said, what do you really feel about Brendan Rodgers coming back to do it to me and my brothers? There's lots of people saying that. There's lots of people saying if they want to give up their season books, make sure that they hand the tickets out, because there's lots and lots of people looking for season books. So let's quickly jump over to my little news site. And Celtic keen on a deal for the Leicester midfield player. Celtic defender identified as easy target. Rodgers and co can transform Celtic's wingers. Yeah, no one has been speaking about that. That's in the Celtic Star. Celtic linked with Leicester City's 51 cap international midfield player. Who's the midfield player that we're meant to be looking at? This is when all the speculation will now ramp up. Celtic, Wilfred Ndidi. He's got far too pricey a tag, surely. But now saying that looks like Celtic might come in for the Leicester player. What do you think about that? Tell me that in the comments. Anyway, let's get back to some of the comments. Charlie had the fun. Oh, lol. Right, that's me done. I need to get a drink, and my missus is away at the pub. So it's not a pub, it's a tapas bar. 3 more likes to get to 50. Try and get to these 50 likes if you can before I call it a day. Let's just look. Martley from Leicester. Let's just look at some more headlines. Victories will ensure Brendan Rodgers wins over the Celtic fans, says Martin O'Neill. That's in the Irish News this evening. And Brendan Rodgers exit deja vu warning. Darren Brent talks of the holy grail of the Premier League. Oh, he's just in the door and they're trying to talk him out already. Did that not happen before? Anyway, yeah, love the channel. Hail, hail. Great appointment. And on that note, it was a great appointment. I think that when you look at the other candidates that were out there, we weren't spoiled for choice. You know, a lot of people don't want to come and manage in the Scottish League. They see it as a stepping stone, as Ange Postecoglou did. So we'll do another live on Wednesday evening. We'll probably do it around the same time, around about 7 p.m, or I might do it about 7:30, just in case there's other channels that have went and put videos out at the exact same time. I want to try and maximize this as much as possible. If you are watching this on a playback, it's no longer live anymore, just put hashtag replay in the comments and we'll try and reply to all the comments. So on that note, I hope you've enjoyed this live stream, and I shall see you.
Lit. Roll up to the party, roll up to the party, roll up to the party, roll up to the